Welcome to the Ignition News. It's too late. We're already live. We'll just wait. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. It is February. Oh, wow. There we go. Substack. Look at all those people over on Substack. I'm starting to become fond of Substack. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. It is February 12th, 2/12/26. Welcome to the show. I'm sure if we had some sort of, I'm sure there's some interesting math thing there that I'm not aware of. I should have prepared myself for that. I do love finding puzzles out of numbers. It's good to see you on the show today. I'm so happy that you're here. We have a lot of things to talk about. But let me get into it. About the day for the show. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the Ignition News. I've got a lot to talk about, and then I am going to close out the show. I do need some help. I need some serious help. So I'm going to lean in and ask my community to go nuclear for me. I really need you. So let's get into it. Good morning. Welcome to the Ignition News. If you're new to the show, let me tell you what the Ignition News is. We are a one-stop shop for true information about what's happening in this country. We obviously have the capitulation of the media happening with billionaire medias, apps, all that bullshit. But I think a lot of people are tired of getting the breaking news, right? It's that amygdala hijack. So we try to do it a little bit differently here. So I'm so glad that you're here. Let's find out. I like to have some little fun facts for you today. So some fun facts about today. On February 12th, 2006, Abraham Lincoln and Charles Darwin were both born. Congratulations, boys. Lincoln obviously led the United States through the Civil War, and Darwin provided the theory of evolution. Imagine on this day, obviously a significant day, two inflection points in our history. It's Black History Month. The NAACP was founded in 1909 on the centennial of Lincoln's birth. That's kind of a fun fact. In 1924, President Calvin Coolidge delivered his first presidential radio address. Welcome to Rebel Radio, everyone. It's good to be here. And the U.S. Senate acquitted Bill Clinton of perjury and obstruction of justice after being impeached by the House in 1999. This was only the second impeachment trial in the history of the country. Think about that for a second. Bill Clinton was number 2. Trump was number 3 and 4. So he has 50% of the impeachments so far. 50% so far, right? So yes, let's get into the news, everyone. I'm so happy that you're here. Sorry we got started a little bit later today, but that's okay. On the Ignition News, we cover the information. Excuse me. I normally would have water here, but I don't. We cover the information that you need to know. So let's get into it. I'm so glad you're here. First story. You probably heard about Mark Kelly losing his benefits. He got a major legal victory today. It came from a Bush-appointed judge. Mark Kelly from Arizona is a retired Navy captain, obviously. He's also a former astronaut. Back in November, he and 5 other Democratic lawmakers with intelligence backgrounds made a video. In that video, they reminded service members and intelligence community folks of something very simple, which is you are required to refuse illegal orders. You took an oath to the Constitution, not to any individual president. The video said, and I'm quoting the video, that threats to our Constitution are coming from right here at home, and they urged people to refuse illegal orders. The president called it sedition. Sedition is punishable by death. This is no small thing. The President of the United States said that lawmakers committed a crime punishable by death. Then Pete Hegseth went after Kelly specifically. He censured him officially, and he initiated proceedings to reduce Kelly's military rank from captain, which would also cut his retirement pay. And that's all because Mark Kelly used the First Amendment to speak out against the government. So then Kelly sues the government. And yesterday, District Judge Richard Leone, who is a Bush appointee, issued a 29-page ruling that dismantled the Pentagon's case. It's a major victory. And this leads into the other story that is closely tied to this, which is that those same 6 lawmakers revealed to us yesterday that the President of the United States, through his Justice Department, tried to indict them. And everyone was celebrating this yesterday. And it's like, oh, they tried to indict us, but they didn't indict us. That is not the thing to be celebrated. Just to be super clear, I find it a bit shocking that we are celebrating the fact that lawmakers were not indicted as some kind of empiric victory. But the reality is 6 lawmakers were attempted to be indicted by the Justice Department. And if no one else believes what is happening, let us just be very clear. What is happening is the president sends out some sort of like vague tweet or Truth Social or Truth, and he says, "Oh, I sure hope that someone indicts this person or does something. I sure hope." And then magically the Justice Department takes over, and then the president gaslights all of us. And it's like, I don't have anything to do with the indictments. I'm not in charge of indictments. That is Pam Bondi, or that is Pete Hegseth, or that is Kash Patel. I don't have anything to do with that. But that's not what's happening. And we all know that's not what's happening. It's fucking crazy. Kelly said about this case was never just about me. This administration was sending a message to millions of retired veterans that they too can be censured or demoted for speaking out. That is why I could not let it stand. Also, I know this might not be over yet because this president and administration do not know how to admit when they're wrong. When you connect the dots here, you have a president using the military to punish a veteran. Disgusting. I know that we have a lot of veterans who are part of the Rebel Radio community, and I just want to take a minute to say I'm very proud of all of them for respectfully using their voices to stand up against their government. That is what they fought for. That is why they did and what they signed up to do what they do. They are actual American heroes. Let us not forget President Bone Spurs using his connections, money, and cowardice to avoid actually serving the country. And then when he has the opportunity, he sicks the DOJ on these elected representatives. And yes, it is a victory. Of course, it's a victory that these people were not indicted. But the fact that they were indicted should be a fucking red flag. It is a blaring red flag. There's no question about it. Because the thing is, those people were public. They were visible. People saw it. They knew what was happening. So if those people in the grand jury box are like, I know Mark Kelly, he's not a traitor. I know this person. I saw this on the news, right? And so they have that sort of ability to separate that, right? But if that happened to you, or if you were a veteran, because I know there's many veterans that followed the show, if you were a veteran and you spoke out and they indicted you, well, your neighbors in the grand jury, they might not know you. They might have institutional trust in the system, which is already failing, by the way. And they might say, okay, because by the way, grand jury indictments are so common that it is more likely to get struck by lightning if you are a prosecutor than it is to have a grand jury indictment returned without indicting someone. So it is more likely for a prosecutor to walk out of court and get struck by lightning than it is for them to walk out of court without an indictment that they sought. That is how easy it is to put someone into the criminal justice system. And by the way, when they do put someone into the criminal justice system, it's enormously expensive. It's time consuming. One of my very good friends is on trial right now, or is going through the process because of something she was involved with in Minneapolis. And the system is designed to shut you out and shut you up. Most people take deals when they get charges, even if they're not guilty, because the idea of because what they do is they sit and they go, well, you were protesting that ICE agent, you could either take this guilty charge and get 6 months probation, or, you could go to jail for 20 years or 30 years. We got you on video right here. And you have to think, how many of you have $200,000 to fight the federal government right now? How many of you have $500,000 for a trial, an appeal, going to the Supreme Court if you have to defend your First Amendment rights? None of you. Be honest. None of you. And so what most people do is they go, oh, okay, well, I'll take the deal. That's what they do. This is exactly the kind of resistance we need to learn from. When someone in power tries to abuse you, you have to stand your ground. But you also have to cover your ass. Welcome to the Ignition News, everybody. It's great to have you. Please do follow along in the show. Hey, TikTok. Good to see you. Happy Thursday indeed. Thanks, Substack. I love that we're growing on Substack. Substack, let me just take a minute and say, every one of you is beautiful. My God, I'm blushing. Thank you for watching the show on Substack. I appreciate you. If you're watching on the live feed elsewhere, I also appreciate you. I want to make sure I'm not missing anyone, because then I'll hear about it later. But oh my God, good to see you, someone says. Yeah, good to see you too. Yeah, let's get on to the next story. All right, so and the next story is that one of my favorite heroes, Miss Rachel, is speaking out against detention facilities. You know that on the show here, we've been talking about the ICE detention facilities for some time, but now we're adding another comrade, which is Miss Rachel. If you don't know who Miss Rachel is, she is this YouTube sensation. She's like our current generation's Miss Rogers. She makes educational videos for toddlers. I mean, I feel like most people know who Miss Rachel is, But in an Instagram video yesterday, Miss Rachel said, "I'm really worried about the kids living in the Dilley detention center. I'm speaking out as an advocate for kids everywhere and an educator and a mom. Kids need clean water, healthy food, and they need to be able to feel secure in their environment." Now, this might seem obviously like common sense or just normal, but here's what we know what is happening at this facility. It's formerly called the South Texas Family Residential Center. It is run by a private prison facility. And in recent weeks, it's been holding hundreds of families, including a lot of young children, in what advocates are calling prison-like conditions. It made national headlines when Liam Ramos, he was actually, that was where he went. You remember Liam, obviously. But he was not alone. We know from court filings that there are hundreds of families at this detention center. And here's some of the things that we know about that detention center. In recent weeks, I gotta slow down. Hello, everybody. In recent weeks, conditions and treatment appear to have worsened, with families reporting horrific conditions such as denial of critical medical care, worms and mold in their food, resulting in children becoming ill, and threats of family separation by officers and staff. This is your tax dollars. This is your money doing this. Let's see, what else do we have? One mother who was detained there with her toddler told reporters she stopped feeding her son fresh vegetables after she saw worms in the broccoli served to detainees. This week, the Texas Department of State Health Services confirmed 2 active measles cases at Dilley. Measles. How does the Republican Congress respond to this? Well, you got Tony Gonzalez from Texas. He said, "It's nicer than some elementary schools." Here's what makes it important. Miss Rachel is emerging as one of those people in our time who are showing what true resistance looks like. She's built a massive following, 19 million on YouTube. I'm sure many, many more million elsewhere, TikTok, Instagram, all of these places. Miss Rachel's brand is probably worth $1 billion, conservatively. We have all seen all of these celebrities who are sitting there saying like, "Oh, well, I don't really do politics. You know, this is not a political page. This is a cooking page. This is a travel page. This is a dog page," whatever that is. That is exactly how fascism advances. That is exactly how it happens. Yesterday, I posted something that I think got a lot of shit. And I was talking about the Washington Post, because when I saw the Washington Post, right, they laid off so many of their employees. Jeff Bezos saying he's making business decisions. And I looked at that, and I have to be honest with you. When I looked at what happened to the Washington Post, my initial response was like, that sucks. That's a threat to the First Amendment. I'm really bummed that this happened. But last night, I kind of realized, as I analyzed what happened at the Washington Post, democracy dies in darkness is one of the things they say on the Washington Post. Yes, you've heard this. Democracy dies in darkness. You've definitely heard that. If you haven't heard that, welcome to the show. But what you might not know about that phrase, democracy dies in darkness, is a relatively new phrase from the Washington Post. I mean, I thought it was just I thought it had been around for decades. I thought it had been around since, the 70s or something like that. But democracy dies in darkness was a phrase they brought to their brand during the first Trump administration. It has only been around that long. Yet, during the Trump administrations, both 1 and 2, you saw the media, especially Bezos's media, punting critical stories about the president, dismissing coverage that is critical of the president, using radical reframing. And of course, famously, during the election, the editorial board of the Washington Post endorsed Kamala Harris. And Jeff Bezos himself purposely punted it. And they punted it. And so, I was initially very sorry for the reporters at the Washington Post, obviously for the editors. The sports team, I think, got cut out. The international teams, most of them are just vanquished. I don't feel sorry for them when I really think about it, because what it really is they had enormous power and privilege afforded to them by the blood, sweat, and tears of veterans who fought for their First Amendment right, of protesters who died in the streets, hosed in the streets. When I was at No Dapple, the police, when we were protesting at No Dapple, in the middle of winter, they would spray us with water cannons in the middle of the night. Freezing water. Somebody that I saw at No Dapple, I didn't personally see this, just to be clear with you. They had their arm blown off by one of these flashbang things, permanently disabled, fighting for your rights. And so reporters in this time want to have both the privilege and the protection of the First Amendment, but also the comfort of their money and the comfort of their status and the comfort of not having to worry about a tyrannical president. Well, how has that worked out? And so I don't think that what happened was an assault on the First Amendment. I mean, that's the output of it. Let's be honest with you. I think what happened is the Washington Post and its editors and its staff and its team capitulated to fascism, punted editorials, made soft headlines, looked the other way, didn't speak out, didn't call the president what he is, a tyrannical aging fascist with cognitive decline. And because they didn't use their enormous power, their enormous privilege, and their enormous protections, this is the consequence. This is the consequence. Every action has a consequence, but every inaction also has a consequence. And the people at the Washington Post lost their jobs because of inaction, not because of action. And that's just the truth. It's an uncomfortable truth. It's unpleasant. It sucks. I'm sorry that they lost their job, their money, but their threat to their safety in the form of their paycheck is no different than the threat to safety brought to an immigrant mother ripped from her family in this detention center, or to threats to the election, which the president is actively making right now, or to you. Not accurately describing what is happening in the country right now is actively harming everyone. And if you lost your job because you were afraid of speaking out against the president and you now want to claim that it is an assault on the First Amendment, I'm sorry, but I'm a little bit busy right now. I'm a little bit busy speaking out, organizing, creating, pushing back. And yeah, it sucks you lost your job, but you have a choice to make. All of us have a choice to make. So let us make those choices. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ignition News. I want to cover the next story, which is an important story. That is that Tom Homan has officially announced that Operation Metro Surge is ending. Obviously, this is the Minneapolis Enforcement, Customs Border Patrol, and ICE. 3,000 ICE and federal agents went to Minneapolis. We saw the dramatic ICE action in Minneapolis, the terror on the streets, the death of Alex Preddy, of Renee Good, enormous amount of damage. DHS has said they've made 4,000 arrests since the beginning of the operation, which is, by the way, about 61 arrests per day for 65 days straight. Of course, when journalists tried to verify those numbers, we have not been able to independently verify that. But nonetheless, Tom Homan is pulling out of Minneapolis. Now, this may be a strategic move. This may be something designed to put up a little bit of a symbolic move because DHS funding is very much on the line right now. But it is a victory nonetheless. And whether it's a symbolic victory or whether it is a rhetorical sort of moving of the goalposts so they can get DHS funding, it is nonetheless an example that when we push back, it works. And if we push back now, and what that only means is that they stopped a little bit to have their little moment to get their DHS funding back. Whether Congress chooses to do that is a conversation for another day, but nonetheless, we did push them to that line. We did push them to that line. Over 30,000 volunteers were trained as constitutional observers in Minnesota to follow and document federal law enforcement across 77 of Minnesota's 87 counties. 3,000 federal agents, 30,000 neighbors. The story writes itself. Of course, we know that only 14% of those arrested had any kind of criminal history, and most of that criminal history was something like a DUI. And even with all this chaos, even with all this violence, even with all this death and destruction, the Trump administration still has not deported as many people as the Obama administration. And it appears that they are deporting less people in 2025, I forget the year, 2025, than the Biden administration did in 2024. Something to think about. Something to think about. So how do all of these stories connect? It's a hopeful show, I think, today. Yes, I should hope. All of these stories connect in one meaningful way. Something we talk about all the time. When we push back, they crumble. This administration has only one toolkit: a little bit of violence and a lot of violent language. When you push back against a little bit of violence, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to respond to that, and so they always retreat. Every time they retreat, whether that's tariffs or Greenland or now Minnesota, every time we mount a meaningful resistance, they retreat. So on days when you feel like it is gloomy and it is not going to get better, I have to challenge you to hold yourself accountable to understand that perhaps you're just tired, which is okay, by the way. Or perhaps you haven't seen a victory yourself up close. Whether that's going to a protest, blowing a whistle, whether that's supporting a local candidate, perhaps you feel that way. Perhaps you feel that way because you haven't tasted victory yourself yet, or it's been a while since you've tasted victory. And to be very clear, That doesn't mean that you always win. It means that you refuse to back down. And of course, my lawyers will want me to tell you blah, 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 at the Ignition News, Rebel Radio. We do not condone violence. All this. Can only say it so much. Democracies defend themselves this way. Not one big dramatic thing, one person at a time. An Instagram post from a kids show star. A retired Navy veteran deciding to be a hero instead of a coward. An aging, middle-aged white man putting on his jacket to do a show on a Thursday. A group of badasses supporting said show. So keep paying attention. Keep documenting. Keep organizing and pushing back. Keep making it politically impossible for them to do their worst. And that's how this works. We may or may not save democracy, friends. That's the brutal truth. We may or may not save democracy. I think it is uncertain at best right now. But what no one can say, what no one will be able to say of you or you, they will not say we did not try. And for today, February 12th, well, I think that's a victory. Thank you for the show, everybody. It's been a great time. One take, no? Yeah, one take. Thanks, everybody. Thanks,